The arrival. The shuttle door opened with a sharp hiss, and Daniel stepped onto the platform of the distant colony. The air smelled strange, like a mix of metal and flowers, and the sky was painted in two colors, half orange and half violet. He had seen many planets before on the screens back on Earth, but this one felt alive, almost as if it was watching him. His boots touched the ground, and a cold shiver ran through him. Colony officers were waiting, tall figures wearing silver armor and strange breathing masks. They did not welcome him with smiles nor with greetings. They only scanned him with glowing devices and nodded to each other. One officer spoke in a sharp tone. "Human Daniel, you will stay in assigned quarters. You will follow rules, no wandering at night." Daniel frowned but said nothing. He already felt like a prisoner more than a guest. As he walked through the colony streets, he saw towers rising into the sky, built from black stone that pulsed faintly like veins. Strange lights floated above the streets, and alien creatures with 4 arms and glowing eyes moved silently, ignoring him completely. There was no warmth here, no welcome, only rules and silence. He wondered why Earth had even sent him to such a place. Finally, he was guided to a large house built in the center of a quiet street. It looked more like a temple than a home, with carved symbols and glowing windows. Before he could step inside, one officer handed him a data tablet. "Your assistant has been assigned. She will take care of you." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Assistant? What do you mean?" The officer did not answer. He only turned and walked away, leaving Daniel at the door. Inside the house, Daniel froze. A figure was standing in the middle of the room, waiting for him. She was not human. She was tall, slim, her skin faintly silver, and her hair flowed like black liquid down her shoulders. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly blue, and when she moved, her steps were silent, almost like floating. She bowed her head slowly and spoke in a soft voice. "I am your maid, assigned by the colony. I will clean your house and serve your needs." Daniel felt his chest tighten. A maid? From another species? He had expected maybe a translator or guide, but not this. Something about her made him uneasy. She was too calm, too quiet, and her eyes never left his face. "Why would I need a maid?" Daniel asked carefully. The alien woman only tilted her head. "It is the rule here. Every human must be cared for." Her words did not make sense, but Daniel let it go for now. He placed his small bag on the table and looked around the house. It was too large for one man. The halls echoed with silence, and strange carvings covered the walls. The maid followed him without a sound, her movements smooth and precise, like she had memorized his every step. When he stopped, she stopped. When he turned, she turned, her eyes always watching. That night, Daniel tried to rest, but the house was filled with strange sounds, whispers in the walls, faint humming from the ceiling, and the feeling of being watched. He turned and saw the maid standing near the door, her hands folded, her eyes glowing softly in the dark. "What are you doing?" Daniel asked, half angry and half scared. "I'm making sure you are safe," she whispered, her voice soft but firm. "Safe from what?" He pressed, but she did not answer, only lowered her eyes. Daniel could not sleep, his heart raced. Why was he given a maid instead of a guard? Why did she act like she was protecting him, not serving him? As hours passed, he heard her whispering in her alien tongue, words he could not understand. He closed his eyes, pretending to sleep, but then he heard something that froze his blood. In the silence, the maid leaned closer and whispered in perfect human English, "Daniel, I will not let them take you like the others." Daniel's eyes shot open, but she was already standing back in the shadows, silent and still, as if nothing had happened. He lay frozen in his bed, his breath shallow, his mind racing. Others? What others? What did she mean by take? The house felt colder, the night darker, and for the first time, Daniel realized he was not just on a strange planet. He was in the middle of something far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. The strange bond, the morning light in the colony, was not like Earth's. It was pale and cold, like the sky itself did not want to rise. Daniel sat at the table, staring at the strange food placed before him. Shimmering fruits, glowing bread, and a drink that pulsed like it was alive. He did not touch it, his stomach twisted with unease. The maid stood close by, silent, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Finally, he asked, "What did you mean last night? Who are the others?" The maid lowered her head, refusing to answer, her long black hair covering half her face. Instead, she said softly, "Eat, you must keep your strength. This planet is not kind to the weak." Daniel pushed the plate away. "I won't eat anything until you tell me the truth." Her eyes flickered with something, fear or anger, he could not tell. Then she leaned closer, her voice sharp as a blade. If you want to survive here, do not ask questions loudly. Walls in this house have ears. Daniel froze, his heart pounding. The walls? He had thought the carvings were only decoration, but now he noticed they glowed faintly when the maid spoke, almost like they were listening. Before he could ask more, she lifted her hand. A finger pressed to her lips, demanding silence. That single gesture made Daniel realize something terrifying. He was not only being watched, he was being studied. Hours passed and the maid followed him everywhere. When he tried to step outside, she blocked the door, her voice steady but urgent. Not at night. The streets belonged to hunters after dark. When he moved through the halls, she traced symbols with her fingers on the walls, glowing marks that faded after a few seconds. When he rested, she walked the house silently, whispering in her alien language, leaving small objects on the windowsills, stones, feathers, glowing shards. Daniel realized these were not random acts. She was building protection around him, but protection from what? That night, Daniel decided to test her. He pretended to fall asleep, breathing slow and steady. He heard her move, her steps as soft as mist. Through half-closed eyes, he saw her kneel beside his bed, drawing a glowing symbol on the floor. She whispered words in her language, her voice trembling as if in prayer. Then, clear as crystal, she whispered in English again. Stay hidden, stay alive. I will not lose another one. Daniel's blood turned cold. Another one? Did she mean another human? He forced himself to stay still, his heart racing, but then the room grew colder. The walls pulsed with faint red light and a low hum filled the air. Daniel's instinct screamed something was near, something alive in the very walls. The maid stood quickly, spreading her arms wide, chanting in her alien tongue, her voice louder, stronger, commanding. The hum faded, the light dimmed, and silence returned. Daniel could not hold it in anymore. He sat up, his voice shaking with both fear and anger. What is happening here? Tell me the truth or I swear I'll find out myself. The maid turned slowly, her face pale, her glowing eyes full of something Daniel had never seen before. Desperation, she whispered. If you knew the truth, you would not sleep another night. But if you keep pushing, the colony will notice, and once they notice, you are already dead. Daniel felt like the floor was falling under him. He wanted to shout, to demand more, but her trembling voice stopped him. Please, she whispered. Trust me, I am not your enemy. I am the only reason you are still breathing. The next morning, Daniel tried to escape the house. He pushed past her and walked into the street, the cold alien air biting at his skin. But within minutes, the silence of the colony was broken by the sound of footsteps. He looked up and saw figures in silver masks at the far end of the street, moving toward him, slow but certain. The maid ran after him, grabbed his arm, her voice urgent. Fool! They are already watching. She dragged him back inside, slamming the door, her hands shaking as she barred it with glowing chains that rose from the walls. Daniel shouted, Why are they after me? Why am I here? What happened to the others before me? The maid's face darkened, her voice trembling but sharp. They sent humans here before you. Yes, but none of them survived. They disappeared one by one, and the colony erased their names, their faces, their very existence. No one on Earth even remembers they were sent. Daniel staggered back, the air leaving his lungs. The maid stepped closer, her glowing eyes burning into his. I was forced to watch them die. Every single one, and now they have given me you. But this time I will not obey. This time I will not let them take you. The house grew silent again. But Daniel's mind was chaos. He finally understood the terrible truth. He was not just living in a strange colony. He was trapped in a place where humans were hunted, erased and forgotten, and his alien maid, the one who claimed to serve him, was the only thing standing between him and that fate. Hidden truths. Daniel sat in the corner of the wide alien house, his hands trembling. The maid's words from the night before echoed inside his skull. The others before you. None survived. He could not breathe properly, as if the air itself was warning him to leave, but where could he go? He was trapped on a planet that did not want him, surrounded by beings that erased humans like dust in the wind. The maid moved quietly, setting strange glowing stones near the windows. Her eyes never rested, scanning the walls, scanning the shadows, scanning even the silence. Daniel finally spoke, his voice low and heavy. Why are you doing all this for me? Why not let them take me like the others? The maid froze, her back straight, her shoulders stiff. After a long silence, she whispered, "Because you are different. You remind me of something I thought I had lost." Her voice shook, and for the first time, Daniel saw a crack in her calm mask. He stepped closer, his anger giving way to something else. "Different? What do you mean?" But before she could answer, a loud vibration shook the walls. The carvings on the walls glowed bright red, pulsing like veins filled with fire. The maid's eyes widened. "They are testing the house again." Daniel frowned. "Testing? For what?" She grabbed his arm and pulled him down, whispering harshly, "For weakness, for resistance, for signs of betrayal." The humming grew louder, a cold pressure pressing down on Daniel's chest like an invisible hand. He felt his heart racing, his breath shallow, his vision dimming. Just as his knees buckled, the maid shouted words in her alien tongue. Her voice sharp and commanding. The pressure vanished. The walls dimmed, silence returned. Daniel gasped for breath, his chest burning. What was that? The maid's face was pale, her glowing eyes trembling. "That was the colony watching you, measuring you, deciding if you are worth keeping alive." Daniel's stomach dropped. They were not just ignoring him. They were studying him like an insect trapped in a glass box. And the maid, she was the only barrier between him and death. Later, when the house grew quiet again, Daniel decided to search for answers. He waited until the maid left the room, then began exploring the house. He walked down a long hallway, his footsteps echoing softly, until he noticed a faint draft of air coming from behind a wall. Pressing against the carvings, he found a hidden door, its edges glowing faintly blue. With effort, he pushed it open, and a dark chamber revealed itself. Inside, Daniel froze. The room was filled with human belongings, bags, clothes, journals, tools, even a cracked helmet with the Earth emblem on it. Dust covered everything. But it was clear. These things had belonged to other humans, the ones who never returned. His chest tightened as he picked up a small notebook, the writing still visible. The first line made his skin crawl. "If you are reading this, then you are the next one and you are already in danger." Daniel's hands shook as he flipped through the pages. The note spoke of strange whispers, the walls watching, the colony officials visiting at night. One entry ended with trembling words, "She is not what she seems. She is both protector and jailer." Daniel's breath caught, his eyes darting to the door. The maid, was she truly saving him? Or was she the reason none of the others survived? Just then a soft voice echoed behind him, "You should not be here." Daniel spun around. The maid stood in the doorway, her face half in shadow, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. She stepped inside slowly, her presence filling the room. Daniel raised the notebook, his voice shaking. "What is this? Who were they? Why didn't you tell me?" Her lips trembled, her voice breaking. "Because if you knew, you would not trust me, and without your trust, you would already be dead." Daniel's heart pounded. "Were you ordered to kill them? Were you the one who—" "Stop!" she cried, her voice shattering the silence. Tears glimmered in her glowing eyes. "Yes, I was ordered. But no, I could not. I tried to save them. But the colony always knew. They always took them away. I was powerless. Powerless until now." Daniel stared at her, torn between rage and pity. Her trembling hands reached out, almost touching his arm. "This time is different. I will not fail again. I will not let them erase you too." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then heavy footsteps echoed outside the house, slow, deliberate, coming closer. The maid's face went pale. She whispered, "They are here. They know you found the room." The walls began to glow again, red veins spreading like fire. The sound of the colony enforcers grew louder. The door rattled under their power. The maid grabbed Daniel's hand, her voice fierce. "You must choose now, trust me and follow, or stay and be erased like the others." Daniel's breath came fast, his body trembling. This was the moment. The point where survival meant surrendering his fate to the alien maid. And deep inside, he knew whatever truth she was hiding, it was still better than facing the colony alone. The choice. The pounding on the door shook the walls. Red veins of light crawled across the carvings like fire searching for air. Daniel's chest tightened as the sound of metal boots echoed closer. The maid gripped his wrist with surprising strength, her glowing eyes fierce. "They know they will break in soon if they see this room. Either of us will live." Daniel's mind raced, his voice sharp. "Then tell me the truth now. Why am I here? What do they want from me?" Her face twisted with pain, her silver skin shimmering in the faint light. "Finally," she whispered, "you are a test every human they send is. They want to see how much you can endure before you break, and I was ordered to end you when the time comes." Daniel's breath stopped in his throat, his heart hammering. "So it's true," he said bitterly. "You were supposed to kill me." The maid's hands shook, her eyes wet with a strange glowing tear. "Yes, but I will not again, I cannot." The sound of the colony guards grew louder, sharp alien voices chanting outside, the house itself vibrating with their power. Daniel looked at the notebook still in his hand, the desperate words of the humans before him. He wanted to scream, to run, to fight, but his body felt frozen between fear and disbelief. The maid pulled him close, her voice urgent. "You must choose, either trust me now or face them alone if you doubt me. We are both lost." Before he could answer, the door burst open with a crack like thunder. 3 tall figures stepped inside, armored in silver, their glowing masks hissing with poisonous air. They moved with cold precision, weapons crackling in their hands. One pointed at Daniel and spoke in a deep alien voice. "The human has seen too much. Erase him." Daniel's blood turned to ice. The maid stepped in front of him, her arms wide, her voice rising like a storm. "No, he is mine. You will not touch him." The soldiers paused, surprised, but then one growled, "You were ordered to obey, Maid, not defy." Daniel's eyes widened. The truth hit him hard. She was not just a servant. She was a weapon, a living tool the colony used, and now she was breaking her chain. The soldiers raised their weapons, energy crackling in the air. Daniel felt his legs weaken, his voice cracking. "We can't fight them. We'll die." The maid's glowing eyes snapped to his, her voice fierce. "Then die fighting. Not erased like the rest, but if you trust me, I can show you a way out." The walls began to hum, the carvings burning red, the house itself betraying them. Daniel realized he had no time left, his throat dry, his heart pounding like drums in war. He looked at her trembling hands, her glowing tears, and knew this was the moment. With a heavy breath, he whispered, "Fine, I'll trust you." Her face broke with both relief and fear. "Then hold on," she said. She raised her arms and slammed her hands against the walls. The carvings glowed bright blue instead of red. The hum turned into a roar. The soldiers shouted in anger, their weapons firing, energy bolts ripping across the room, but the maid stood strong, her body glowing with the same blue light, shielding Daniel with her own frame. The air exploded with force, the hidden symbols across the house lighting up like stars. A secret passage opened in the floor, dark and narrow, leading into the depths below. The maid grabbed Daniel's hand and pulled. "Now! Before they recover!" They leapt into the passage just as the soldiers lunged forward, their voices filled with rage. The door above slammed shut, sealing the soldiers out, but their angry pounding followed them through the darkness. The tunnel was cold and endless, glowing faintly with strange symbols. Daniel's voice echoed in the dark, shaking, "Where are we going?" The maid's voice was steady but heavy. "To the core of the colony, to the place they never wanted you to see." Daniel's stomach churned, the weight of her words pressing down. "Why me? Why risk all this for me?" he demanded. She slowed, turning to face him in the dim blue light, her glowing eyes fierce. "Because you are not like the others. You fight to question, you resist, and maybe you are the one who can end this." Daniel's voice cracked. "End this? And what?" The maid stepped closer, her whisper sharp as a blade. "The truth hidden beneath this colony. The reason no human ever returned. The reason they fear you more than they fear war itself." Before Daniel could speak, the tunnel shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling, from behind them. The sound of the soldiers echoed louder, closer. The maid grabbed his hand tighter, her voice desperate. "Run, Daniel. If they catch us now, you'll never see the truth, and I'll be forced to finish what they made me start." Daniel's chest burned, his legs heavy, his mind a storm of fear and questions. But one thing was clear. The truth was close, hidden in the core of the colony, and reaching it meant everything. The escape. The tunnel stretched on forever, narrow and cold, its walls glowing with strange blue veins. Daniel ran behind the maid, his lungs burning, his heart slamming against his chest like a drum of war. Behind them, the sound of armored boots echoed. Sharp and merciless, the colony soldiers were coming. Every step reminded him that if they slowed, if they faltered, they would be erased. Finally, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber, a place unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. The air vibrated with a deep hum. The walls covered in endless rows of glowing pods, each pod filled with a dim figure floating inside. Daniel's stomach twisted as he stepped closer, his breath catching. No. These are... The maid's voice was heavy, her glowing eyes filled with sorrow. Humans. Daniel pressed his hand against the glass of one pod. The frozen face of a man staring back, pale, lifeless, preserved. Row after row of pods stretched into the darkness. Hundreds, maybe thousands, all humans, all silent prisoners. His voice broke, trembling with horror. This is what happened to them. The maid nodded slowly, her voice trembling. The colony does not kill you. Not at first. They study, they drain, they erase memory, and then they store what remains. Daniel staggered back, his hands shaking. Why? Why us? Her face hardened, her voice fierce. Because they fear you, Daniel. They fear humanity. They fear the one thing you carry inside, resistance, the fire that never dies. They want to bottle it, control it, bury it before it burns them. The sound of soldiers grew closer. Echoing through the tunnels, the maid grabbed his shoulders, her eyes glowing brighter. Now you see the truth. Now you know why I had to save you. You are the first one to reach this place. Daniel's mind spun, his chest burning, his voice desperate. Then let's free them. We can break the pods, we can save them. The maid's face fell, her whisper soft. No, it is too late for them. Their fire is gone, their souls emptied. Only you remain untouched. His heart ached, rage rising like fire in his blood. He clenched his fists. Then we fight. We burn this place to the ground. If they fear our fire, then let them feel it. The chamber shook as soldiers poured in from the tunnels, weapons glowing, their voices chanting in unison. The maid stepped forward, her body glowing with blue fire, her voice like thunder. Stay behind me, Daniel. This is where I choose my side. The soldiers raised their weapons, bolts of energy tearing through the air. The maid spread her arms wide, a shield of glowing light erupting around them, the blast bouncing off with violent sparks. Her body trembled under the force, cracks of light spreading across her skin. But she did not move. Daniel shouted, "They'll kill you." She turned her head, her glowing tears falling, her voice soft. Better to die protecting you than to live as their tool. With a cry that shook the chamber, she unleashed a wave of blue energy, hurling the soldiers back, their armor cracking under the force. Daniel staggered, shielding his eyes from the light. When he looked again, the maid was on her knees, her body flickering with fading glow. She gasped, "Run, Daniel!" The path is open. At the far end of the chamber, a hidden gate glowed faintly. Pulsing with energy, Daniel hesitated, his heart breaking. "I won't leave you." She shook her head weakly, her voice trembling. "You must. You are the last fire, the last hope. If you fall, humanity falls with you." The soldiers began to rise again, crawling from the ground, their eyes burning with rage. The maid lifted her head one last time, her glowing eyes fierce. "Go! And remember, they will come for you, but you must make them fear again." Daniel's chest burned with fury and grief, but he knew this was the end of her strength. He ran to the gate, his legs heavy, his breath sharp, his heart breaking with every step. Behind him, the maid rose one final time, her body glowing like a star. She screamed a word in her alien tongue, her voice echoing through the chamber, and then she exploded with blinding light. The chamber shook, the soldiers swallowed in the wave of blue fire, the pods shattering, the air filling with fragments of broken glass and fading screams. Daniel dove through the glowing gate just as the chamber collapsed, the sound of destruction chasing him into the unknown. On the other side, he fell onto cold ground, coughing, his eyes burning from tears and light. When he looked up, he saw the night sky of the alien planet stretched wide above him, the stars shining like distant fires. He was alive, but alone. The maid was gone, sacrificed in the flames, and yet her words burned inside him, sharper than any blade. "You are the last fire. You must make them fear again." Daniel clenched his fists, his jaw tight. The colony thought they had erased humanity, but they had made a mistake. Now he carried not only his own life, but the fire of every human who came before him, and he swore, as the alien wind howled around him, that the galaxy would remember what it meant to fear humanity.